Broussard, I'll start with you. Were the Nuggets gassed from Tuesday's Game 7? Or are your Clippers just that good, buddy?
His Clippers, lifelong fan.
Nick's been calling them my Clippers the entire restart. Now they're not my Clippers.
It's true.
Gas?
Yeah.
Gas? I wish I could do the Jim Moore voice. Gas? Gas from what? They've played 15 games now in the bubble after a 4-month layoff. Can we stop it with the worn out, exhausted? There's no travel.
Ridiculous.
They didn't have to go get on a plane and fly at 2 a.m.
He makes a good point.
They went back to their hotels, all right?
That's ridiculous.
This is like, in a regular season, this is like being a month and a half into the season, and they're gassed. No, the word is they were outclassed. Nick Wright's worst nightmare is coming to fruition. The LA Clippers are rounding into form, and Nick, they are who I thought they were, okay? A tough first-round matchup against Dallas worked wonders. It got him focused. It allowed Paul George to work himself out of his funk. It allowed Montrezl Harrell and Lou Williams to work themselves into shape. And Marcus Morris, he's now a Clipper, okay?
Yeah.
He has acclimated himself to this team. They love his physicality and his toughness. A wee bit dirty, but hey, everybody crosses the line here and there. He is shooting lights out. 58% from three, Nick, in the playoffs, 56% overall. They're just too good for Denver. Look, they've played Denver now 3 times this season with George and Kawhi, and they've beaten them by all 3 times by an average of 22 points. This series, I underestimated the Clippers myself and said it would go 6.
Okay, all right. So the only thing more outrageous that I've heard in the last 24 hours than that soliloquy right there was the God-blessed love letter Reggie Miller and company wrote to Marcus Morris on the broadcast last night. That was repulsive. The ode to Marcus Morris, who, by the way, it's amazing. I watched that whole game. He managed to not accidentally step on anybody's ankle. It's crazy that it was just like a guy who just accidentally steps on ankles all the time. He went the whole game without doing it. It color me shocked by that. But listen, Marcus Morris shooting 58% from 3 is actually not good for your Clippers, Broussard, because there is a precisely, let me calculate it, 0% chance that can continue. So that will come back down to earth. But let's talk about this idea that it's just unfair to say that the Nuggets were gassed. They were clearly emotionally gassed. They had a Game 7 war that came down to the final shot. They had adrenaline pumping for the first quarter. They was tied up, and then they fell apart. It was exactly, you weren't here yesterday, Broussard, but what all of us on this panel said was going to happen. Despite that, I still believe the Nuggets can and will win the series, and I might go as far as to say, for Game 2, they have the Clippers exactly where they want them. Because you know when the Clippers aren't good? When they're feeling good. So right now, America, Saturday night, I think you can get the Nuggets plus 9.5 on Fox Bet, but you don't need those points. Bet them to win on Fox Bet. Because a nice, relaxed, we've played really well 2 games in a row. Or 3 games in a row for the Clippers. We're clearly the favorites. Those are the types of games they lose. And one last thing, Brandon, before I kick it to you. America, always fact check Broussard's numbers he throws out there, because while they're accurate, they are at times misleading. He's accurate in saying the Clippers are 3-0 against the Nuggets when George and Kawhi have played. He leaves out the game the Nuggets beat them when Paul George didn't play. But one of those games was a game in the bubble when the Nuggets had a lead after 3 quarters against the full-strength Clippers, and then it was the Bowl show and Miles Plumlee for the 4th quarter, and then the Clippers ended up blowing them out. So it's accurate. So, believe but check, because sometimes Broussard tries to massage the info a little bit. But, hey, he had Clippers in 6. I've got Nuggets in 7. It'll be very fun to see the next game. But the Nuggets are winning Game 2, Brandon.
Well, Chris, you did a great job of debunking the theory that the Nuggets weren't gassed. They were gassed, man. They were. You can see it. Jamal Murray had no legs. Jokic did a great job in the first quarter. Then the second quarter, where did he go? No, the Clippers aren't really good. Kawhi is really good. Have we ever seen a more consistent guy? If I'm Doc Rivers, man, this has to be like the easiest guy to coach. You just throw him out there and let him do his thing. Night after night after night, he performs. There was two things that I wanted to see, and I didn't see it. I wanted to see Jokic step up to the challenge. He didn't do it. And I wanted to see if Jamal Murray was a flash-in-the-pan bubble guy. And that's exactly what he was. He was gassed. And how do you be gassed? To your point, Chris, how do you be gassed after 15 games? No travel. I don't get it.
First of all, Nick is so flustered. He forgot I was here yesterday. What are you talking about? Okay? I was here. All right. Secondly, Jamal Murray.
You weren't here when we did our picks. You're right. My bad. Sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
I was watching from the green room in my house. But anyway, Jamal Murray, he's a nice player. I don't want to take anything away from him. But he has stepped up in class. Let's just keep it real. He stepped up in class. They got Kawhi Leonard to throw on him, Paul George to throw on him, Patrick Beverly to throw on him. And then if he gets to the rim, he's got to face, Montrezl Harrell and Zubac and some side. I mean, it's just a different animal against the Clippers. Look, Denver's a nice little team. They'll get a game. Maybe they'll get two, as I predicted. But this series is over, Nick. Face it. And the Clippers have arrived. And Brandon, they're not good. Paul George isn't good.
No.
Their role players their roles.
No. Paul George still hasn't arrived. Great defense, great on the perimeter, phenomenal job. But on the offensive end, you need way more than that if you want to beat the Lakers. You need way more than that from Paul.
He's Pippen. Richard Jefferson should have tweeted about Paul George being Pippen instead of Giannis.
Oh, that's good.
He's Pippen. He's in the perfect role.
Kevin, what did you see last night? Nuggets look gassed?
Well, I saw two interesting things. The first interesting thing is that Chris Broussard is such a consummate professional. Even though we're broadcasting from our homes, he's dedicated a green room into his house. He's got some magazines and some bottled waters there just to prep for the show. So that's a good lesson to all the younger sports journalists out there. If you want to treat this job seriously, dedicate a room to your house, take out all the furniture and turn it into a green room. The sign says Broussard outside. Like, oh, I'm here. Anyways, look, Jamal Murray had 221 points in the last series. We know that he's gassed. I think that Denver has peaked as a team. And Broussard, I'm going to throw it to you here. I don't think Nick actually thinks this series is going 7. And I'm going to question your integrity here, Nick, so buckle up, put a helmet on. I think you want it to go 7. I think you want it to go 7 because you want a tired Clippers team. I don't think you think the Nuggets are going to. You want a tired team to go up against the Lakers. I do not believe that pick is take integrity.
Go ahead, Broussard, but you're wrong. I want the Clippers to win.
You want the Clippers to win? You do not want the Clippers to win, Nick.
You picked the Nuggets.
Of course.
Pick the Nuggets.
Yes. Broussard, you say you are the king of Broussard, you're the king of, I picked this team, but I'm rooting for this other team. And so I'm picking with my head, not my heart. I told you before the playoffs, I want the hardest possible path. I want there to be no asterisk questions, anything about what LeBron James is going to accomplish en route to his 4th ring. It'll be now, once he has 5 or 6 rings, we might forget all the details of it, but for the time being, when he only has 4, it's going to end up being a great story to be told. But Broussard, I do want to say one thing I think you and I will agree on, okay? Because you have a big issue with my star tiers and my different tiers, so I've broken it down further, and this is actually about Kawhi Leonard. Can we show America the pyramid?
Oh, my God.
55-player pyramid. Now, that's too much. Let's zoom in, if we could, on the upper echelon of it, where we can show the top 21 players in basketball. Broussard, you see where Kawhi Leonard is on that pyramid right now. I'm about a week away from flipping him and Giannis. The way Kawhi has played this whole postseason, and with Giannis struggling the way he is against the Heat, it is becoming very hard to argue, no matter how brilliant Giannis is in the regular season, that come the most important time, that Kawhi isn't the player you'd rather have. So while I had it LeBron, Giannis, KD, and then the next tier, Harden, Kawhi, Steph, it's starting to feel to me that Giannis and Kawhi should be flip-flopped there on the tiers. You see your guy Jason Tatum down there. He's 17. There's nothing wrong with that. Well, on Kawhi, where do you stand? Again, I thought Kawhi could have had another 30-point game, but he didn't. But Kawhi didn't play the fourth quarter. He was almost perfect last night.
Nick, you know as well as I do that he belongs on that tier with Durant. I don't mind you having LeBron up on top, but he belongs right next to Kevin Durant. You know it. If you want to leave Giannis up there, fine. But Kawhi, I would rather have Kawhi Leonard than Giannis right now. Brandon said it. Kawhi Leonard he can get a bucket whenever. Doc said it last year. He does remind you of Michael Jordan. I'm not saying he's as good, but his ability in the mid-range, obviously, is a two-way player. I mean, he is killing people in the mid-range game. Youngsters, behold. Kawhi's definitely on that second tier, if that's how you do it.
Well, then we have to remove Giannis because you can only have two people.